Hey, what's going on YouTube? Alabama Reloader here. It's funny, ain't it? My wife is back there laughing at me. She laughs at my intro. But today's video, gonna go over some range results from the other day. Posted a picture over on Instagram. It was just a picture of the shooting bench, and it was the Winchester Model 70 chambered in 7mm Win short mag. We're just kind of going to go over some, I guess it'll be a range of results, multiple rifles and cartridges, and sort of show you what transpired while I was at the range. And then also I want to touch on a little bit of range etiquette. I had to get my coffee. And by the way, this little thing right here, it's by the same people that make the Instant Pot or something like that. I don't know. They have a coffee maker. It's pretty legit. You should check it out. So I was at the range the other day and I pulled up. It was actually Saturday. Today's Sunday, so it was yesterday. And we had a break in the weather here locally. It had been storming like crazy over the past couple of weeks. We've had tornadoes in North Alabama, just crazy weather, and basically stuff that you expect in the springtime, but it seems to be showing up a little bit earlier than normal. And so, dealing with all that, well, all of a sudden, storm rolled through, and then Saturday, it was just an incredibly awesome day to get outside, do some yard work, do whatever, right? Go for a hike. Well, I went to the range, and lo and behold, so did everybody else. The range was packed. It's one of the first times I've been to the range that I go to, Hobbs Island Shooting Range, and it was actually crowded. Typically when I go, it's not very crowded at all. It's a members only range, so it's a monthly fee that you have to pay to be a member there. And it's just never really crowded when I go. But yesterday it was pretty crowded. Now when I pull up, so it's sectioned off, you can shoot, on the rifle side, you can shoot all the way out to 380 yards, right? And that is lumped together with the 100-yard side. They have a berm at about 130 yards is a berm behind the portion where if you just want to shoot 100 yards, then that's where you need to go set up. So that way you're shooting into the berm, right? You don't need to go down to the side that's 380 and set up your target at 100 yards, because the trajectory and the angle that you're shooting at, it's going to ricochet, because you're not going to hit the berm out at 380, aiming at 100 yards, the way this place is set up. Okay. So if you're only going to shoot 100, which is what I typically almost always shoot, then you need to stick to the 100-yard side, just for safety and common sense reasons. Okay. Well, when I pull up, there were a few vehicles parked over on the 100-yard side. There was a guy and his daughter at the bench that I typically like to shoot at. It's just one at the very end. I just picked that one because it's always open as the first one. So I just pull up, normally get out, and just set all my stuff up and I start shooting. Well, they were right there, cool, no big deal. Well, there were two trucks in kind of the first few slots, and then there was another vehicle, an SUV. And so there's basically 5 benches on the 100-yard side. Well, they were at the end, so they were at the first one. The one next to them was empty. The one next to it was empty. So you got 3 right there. The fourth one had a bunch of stuff on it. Like, I think had a couple of firearms, a bunch of just stuff, right, piled up on the bench. And then the 5th one was open. Well, there were a few vehicles parked there, but they were the only ones at the bench actually shooting. And I'm looking around and there's no one else around. No idea where these people are. So I pull down, next to the 5th bench, and I back up and I start to unload all my stuff, get everything set up. Well, I talked to that guy where it was him and his daughter. He had recognized me. We'd actually met previously, so I talked to him for a second. And so I'm sitting there shooting. I just keep doing my thing. I'd set my target up and I had all these dots. I try to do that. So another range tip, like if you're going to go and you're going to be there for a while, you got a lot of stuff to shoot, do your best. Just some range etiquette for everybody else, so you don't have to go cold every 5 seconds. Try to set up your target to where you've got plenty of real estate to shoot at, plenty of dots, plenty of whatever you want to shoot at, right? So you can stay at the bench and not constantly call for cold and going down. For the love of all mankind, don't be that guy. So So I set this up, and I'm sitting there, and I was at the range probably close to 2 hours. And keep in mind, when I pulled up, there was nobody at the benches to my right that had some stuff on it that were open where these vehicles are parked. Well, as I'm just about done shooting, I was there for a couple hours, and I'm getting ready to call cold and go down and grab my target. These couple of guys come down from the 380 side, and it was all their stuff and their vehicles. They had been down shooting at, at the 380 side for, it had to be over 2 hours, because that's how long I was there, and I never saw them come down to their stuff. So just don't be that guy, right? If you're gonna go to the range and there's limited space, don't park your vehicle in a slot that you're not gonna be shooting in and just take up valuable space. I mean, there's only 5 benches on the 100-yard side. If you wanna shoot 380, there's a lot more real estate down there. And you're gonna be down there for 2 hours talking and not really shooting, just pack up all your crap and go down there and park. I mean, it's really not that difficult to do, right? It's just kind of being, a little forethought in what you're doing, especially on a day where it's extremely busy, right? So there was a ton of vehicles, ton of people out shooting that day because the weather was so nice. And so that's one of those things that just, you would think, especially, and it wasn't like these guys are new to shooting, right? It was a guy who I guess is really into PRS. So he's G.I. Joe sniper guy, with his whole tactical setup and all that. And, just giving his buddy the full rundown on, mills versus MOA and which is better and the gear you need to buy and all this stuff. And it's like, that's awesome, man. That is great. But don't be the guy that's, blocking a slot for somebody else that just wants to come in and shoot 100 yards. Just pull down, park at the 380, right? So enough about that. That stuff kind of irks me a little bit when you just don't have basic range etiquette. Yeah, so, and you're paying for that range. You would think somebody paying for a membership, they would just have a little more common sense than that. So let's get into the results. These are, I think it's 5 different cartridges that I shot, something like that. But what I want to start with is this Mossberg 4x4 chambered in 30-06. If you'll recall, I shot a target with that using Winchester Stay Ball 6.5. That was the powder that I wanted to test. And the Sierra 165 grain Game King. And it was one where the highest charge that I had tested previously, it was 60.2 grains, and that was the one where I kind of had a couple of shots right next to each other, and then I had one weird shot where I dropped it way low, or it was either high, one of the two. And I wanted to go back and just retest that because it was out of character for everything else that I shot that day, the rest of the charge weights that I tested. So I just wanted to go back and sort of look at that again. So I loaded up 5 shots. I shot a 3-shot group because 2 of them I wanted to capture for velocity. And so shot a 3-shot group. That's what that looked like. It's probably around 1 inch, that perfectly fine for my expectations for that rifle and my plans for it. And I'm going to load up a lot more of this and just validate, make sure that it's going to shoot around about this performance consistently. The velocity was pretty good. That one velocity data point that I took initially on that first sort of load testing was 2961, and then the next 2 that I took on this particular range trip, 2955 and 2943. So not too bad on our velocity, if you just want to call that 2950 as an average. Out of just those 3, so obviously I'd want to load up a lot more to get a better understanding of what that velocity is looking like. But the case fill with Winchester Stay Ball 6.5 and 30-06 is really, really good. That's one of the reasons why I think I'm going to stick with that powder in this particular rifle, and working up loads. I'm going to focus more on that. The case fill is extremely good with that powder. I mean, it's packed in there pretty well. You've got a pretty full case at 60.2 grains, and I'm not really seeing any concerning signs of pressure, right? I mean, there's not crater and primers. There's nothing, no heavy bolt lift. The primers are not even really flat. I mean, there's just nothing that would indicate to me, hey, we're sort of in the danger zone. So next, I only shot one of these, but this is actually a round I had loaded up previously in a different rifle. This is the Barnes 150 grain TSX bullet. This is actually for a 30-30. That's what these were designed for. But I wanted to load them up in a 30-06 just to see what that performance might look like. I had 11 of these left, and I just wanted to check how close it would be to my 165 grain load here. I zeroed that, and then just fired one to see where it would hit. That's good enough. Call it a day. I'll shoot more of these before the season just to validate and double check that. And this is just over 2,800 feet per second. So it's not really an awesome velocity load by any means. I mean, a 150 grain bullet out of 30-06, you could definitely push it a lot faster. But this was loaded up in that, I believe it was the M1917, that Eddie Stone rifle. So I didn't really want to push the pressures very high at all. I just need this to shoot halfway decent because I'd love to see the performance of this on a deer. Hollow point is insane. Next up, so that was that. This is 6.5 Creedmoor. This is actually 2 shots with the 140 grain gold dot out of my Kimber Pro Hunter, and that's got the Leupold 2-7 by 33 on it. I just wanted to double check, see where that was hitting. I just fired 2. I've got 3 left. Those will be for hunting season, but that's with H4350, I believe. I think it's like 40, might be 40 grains of H4350, something along those lines. Or 42 grains. I can't remember. I'll have to go back and look at the information. I've got it written down somewhere. But put 2 basically in the same hole. That's good enough. I mean, it could have been 2 an inch apart. That would have been fine. That'll kill a deer at the distances that I shoot. But the big test of the day was really the 7mm Win short mag, and it was very not good. It was pretty bad. This is with the 162 grain Hornady SST, and I was shooting Ramshot Magnum. That was the powder I went with, simply because we're able to get some decent velocities up over 3,000 feet per second. So I was really wanting to check that top end that we had tested at previously in a previous video, just because I didn't really see hardly any pressure signs using this load. So I wanted to test it, see if we could find something that shot really well around that 3,000 feet per second mark, and we just didn't. This is something else entirely. But shot 5 groups, all 5 of them were pretty bad except for the very first one, and that's not good at all. But that was the smallest group. So for people that say 3-shot groups don't have any validity, or you can't really extract good information from them, you would be incorrect, simply because the proof is on this target for sure. This bullet powder combination does not work well at this particular charge weight range, right? We're talking 74 up to 75 grains, 73.8 up to 75. So clearly this bullet powder combination isn't going to work well at those velocities. So probably going to back down the charge a little bit. I'll probably continue to test with Ramshot Magnum. I've got a couple of pounds of it, so it's a powder that I'll be able to use. So I want to give that a shot. But outside of that, that's really, that was the bulk of the testing that took place. I also grabbed some more velocity data for the load that my wife used to kill her buck. I shot 5 more rounds of, this is actually 270 Winchester. It's a Barnes 129 grain LRX with Hodgson Superformance, 57 grains of that. And there were the 5 velocity numbers. So we're coming in at 3,100, right? Essentially 3,100 feet per second on that load. On a previous testing day, just under 3,100. So that was back on February 8th. This was March 4th. So you're gonna have slight differences in your velocities based on the environment that you're shooting in and how the environment changes over time, and that's gonna impact your velocities as well. But that deer's not gonna know whether it's 3,090 feet per second or 3,100 feet per second. I promise you that. So that's it. Really nothing to write home about on this range day. It was just kind of good to get out there, get some shooting done, really test that top end on Ramshot Magnum with the 7 Wisdom. None of it's good, so we're gonna actually step it down a little bit and see if maybe dropping that powder charge, slowing it down just a touch, maybe we'll get some better accuracy out of it. somewhat promising. I want to follow this up and shoot a lot more of these. I've got plenty of these bullets to test, so I want to give that a shot and load up some more. So that's it. 30-06, 270, 6.5 Creedmoor, 7mm Wisdom. It was just a great day overall. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a good one.